Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Stars and Stripes series on that of Thursday night on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. We're back. We're happy to be back after last week missing of Richmond. If you'd like to go see the highlight video of Richmond, that has been uploaded, and you can watch that after this race is done. A little bit of a spoiler from that, though. It was all that of Joshua Robinson getting dominant win at that of Richmond. That set the stage for this race and the next. Welcome to the round of 8 in the playoffs for the Stars and Stripes, and we're proud to give you all the coverage here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting for the California 200 at Auto Club. My name is Sam Dyer. Joining me is Zach Hall, and Zach, it's good to be back broadcasting after missing last week, but man, what a first race for this round of 8.
Oh, this is so exciting, Sam, to see how this is going to play out, man. We got 8 super tough competitors out there ready to start this round, and, you know, 2 completely different tracks that have similarities, but they're completely different in length and stature of how you race. So we'll start here this week at Auto Club, then next week we'll finish it all off to see who the Final 4 are at Kentucky, man. So it starts here tonight. If you can go out there and be one of those round of 8 drivers to get your win, you could easily lock yourself in, and that will make Kentucky a little bit easier for you starting next week.
Very much so. 8 drivers come into this round, and you're already starting to see some of them on our ticker board as qualifying is underway. The drivers that are in red are the drivers that are in the round of 8 and are still running for that championship. But let's do a full rundown of all the drivers that are here after some great runs with points-wise after the regular season. Coming in with a little bit of buffer, Scott Rickard going to be topping the board with Kyle McCoy, Thomas Ogle, Andrew Hess, Joshua Robinson, Kyle Bowling, Dylan Grimm, and Jason Gratton are your 8 drivers still running for a championship. But after tonight and next week, we'll cut it down to 4, and the final 4 will run at that of Bristol for the final race of the season. The championship race certainly going to be a tough task, but tonight at Auto Club, 100 laps going to be ran here this evening. With a minute left in qualifying, it's Trey Jackson right now. Top of the board as we see Andrew Medlin starting in the middle of his first lap.
Middle of his first lap, like you said here, Simon. It was interesting to see running that top groove here. Let's see what kind of times that produced. Maybe this is a up-to-speed lap, as they would say, to go that farther distance around on the outside of this racing surface, or it may be the fastest way around. We'll have to see. Auto Club definitely can produce speed up in that upper lane, but here he goes dropping down below the white line just to carry a little bit shorter distance around there, as Medlin right now is going to be 15th on the board. But we'll see if he can pick up on that second lap again as he stays up high. So looks like that's where Medlin wants to run at the moment. But as we were talking about Medlin, Andrew Hess popped to the top of the board with a 41.056. So that 5 machine looking quick here.
Andrew Hess looking for a second pole this season. His first one was all the way back at Atlanta where he won that race, but throw it away. Diego Valle out of nowhere. The 77 going to be topping the board. For Valle, such an important race to come back after kind of the disappointment of the first round of the playoffs, and now the 77 solidifying himself up front. Well, qualifying is done, practice is done, and it's time for us to get ready for 100 laps at Auto Club, the 2-mile circuit that is so wide that you can go 5 to 6, even 7 wide at moments, but we preferably not that wide all the time. But let's take a look at where the driver's going to be starting out here this evening, as here's your starting results and your qualifying results. Diego Valle taking the pole award for the 77. Andrew Hess going to be in second, with Trey Jackson in third, Kyle Bowling in fourth. Fifth goes to Thomas Ogle, with Ross Tatum in sixth. Good to have the 21 back after missing last week and eliminated from the playoffs. And then Christopher Wade, another driver that got eliminated, going to be in seventh, with Tim McNally in eighth. Ninth is going to be Jason Gratton, and Patrick Hasty going to be your top 10.
Just outside that top 10 is the 32 machine of Scott Rickard starting in 11th. 12th is going to go to the 40 of Aaron Hell. 13th place is going to be Will Bustler. 14th is going to be Juan Jimenez, a winner from a couple weeks ago. 15th is going to be Brian Lynch. 16th is going to go to the 1 car of Nate Lynch. Starting 17th is going to be Zach Kreitz. 18th is going to be the 18 car of Andrew Medlin. 19th, Joshua Robinson with a tough qualifying here. 20th is going to be Dylan Grimm, also another playoff contender with a tough qualifying. And then rounding out our field in 21st is Jonathan Woods.
As as the drivers are waiting for everyone to get into their vehicles. There's one driver that we kind of want to get their thoughts on how this run is going to go for themselves, as we're trying to get Joshua Robinson queued up. The 10 machine after his win from last week. Let's see if we can get him up into the booth. Josh, it's Sam and Zach up in the booth. You got us?
Hey guys, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. Well, we missed out on broadcasting you guys live last week. You found yourself in a victory lane at Richmond. Man, how are you feeling after that victory last week and trying to bring that momentum here tonight?
Yeah, Richmond went really well, so super happy about that. This is a completely different animal. We got a lot of draft and a lot of pack racing here, so car's a little bit loose, which kind of was at Richmond as well, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out today.
That it will really be, Josh. I tell you what, the dominant performance last week, man. Congrats again on that, like we were saying. But looks like qualifying didn't go the best for you here with a simple mistake there on your lap. How do you feel about working your way through the field here as this race goes on?
No, it definitely did not. I fell on my face, and I did it in both corners too. So, I think we'll be all right. Got a good group of guys here to race with. Everybody's clean, so. We'll see how it plays out. Gonna be tough. It's it's playoff racing, so everybody's gonna be a little less likely to give up a spot.
Well, Josh, as we're about to get ourselves back to racing, how are you feeling though with just this round overall on trying to make the Final Four?
Yeah, Auto Club's been pretty good to me, but it can be pack racy. I feel a little bit better at Kentucky next week, but we're all on the same track. We all got the same car, so should be fun.
Excited for it. Well, Josh, we'll send you back to your team, and good luck here tonight. Appreciate
it, guys. Hope we put on a good show for you.
Hope for the best. As you send Josh back to his team, we get ourselves ready for Green Flag Racing here tonight at Auto Club. 100 laps, there's no stage break, there's no fast repairs, and 3 sets and tires to work with. Green Flag is out for that of the California 200 here at Auto Club, and the round of 8 is underway.
Underway indeed as they head down to turn 1 at high speeds, already building up over 150 mile an hour here into turn 1. Trey Jackson going to take quickly hands over that second position, but Andrew Hess is going to try to fight back on this outside groove. But we'll quickly see, like Joshua Robinson was speaking about, pack races almost 3 wide down the back straightaway.
Almost 3 wide for the lead. It's going to be Andrew Hess in the outside lane with a better run as he'll be climbing to the lead position. We ran at Michigan, the sister track to Auto Club, and we saw pack racing on top of one another for the whole entire race. And all the different lanes are being utilized here early on as Diego Valle somehow fights back, gets back to the lead, and he'll lead lap number 1 for the 77. But Andrew Hess, Thomas Ogle in line, and that's a fast duo on the outside.
That it really is. Those two teammates work so well together, and they looking to be doing a similar start here to this round of 8 as Hess luckily made his way through after a tough Richmond last week, but now going to fight to the outside of IA here. And already in this first opening 2 laps, these drivers are stepping out sideways. Robinson was not kidding. These cars are loose.
They're loose, they're hectic, but holding on is going to be these drivers up front. It's going to be the 5 machine, the 77 and 31. So far in just our first lap, not a lot of movement on the drivers that are up front. Biggest movers so far, Thomas Ogle and Ross Tatum up 2 positions. Deeper in the field, Dylan Grimm's up 3 spots, but no one is over 5-6 positions moved. But it's the playoff drivers trying to rise to the top at this moment.
Trying to find what lane could work for him as we got some 3 wide action back there. Jason Gratton on the very bottom of it in the 8 machine there as he's going to slide back with a little bit of a loss of a run, but the 24, the 25, and the 15 right ahead of him, now they're going to go 3 wide. So everybody, again, this track's so wide, has so much availability to racing lines, everybody's searching for that grip.
Grip is certainly something to watch out for as the middle of the pack. People searching for little lanes, pockets to move up, down, and find their momentum as up front. It looks to be the draft factor of Andrew Hess, Thomas Ogle working well, but you see here Trey Jackson just trying to find his placing as he's in the middle lane, watching everyone high, low, and all around, leaving their spots on this track. And right now, Zach, seems like drivers up front feel pretty confident with the way that they're running at this moment. 4 laps in, and everyone trying to single file out on the straightaways.
That front group is definitely trying to single file. Oh, this group right here is saying we want to get that track position. That's so vital here to have that clean air on your nose. And right now, everybody off of 4 fighting strong to try to get up forward. And it's bowling there on that inside position for 6th, trying to take that top 5 spot from that 15 here, but just cannot find the speed able to do it. And that's what sometimes happens here when you get stuck on that bottom lane. That outside line can continue to draft around you with everybody washing up towards that wall. It can be tough sometimes to make passes down below.
Finding help in the draft could be a key factor in the straightaways. It seems like that outside lane, just more cars in line, carrying their speed much better. As Kyle Bowling just stays stable, losing ground to the 15, trying to find a spot just to glide up, get in front of Trey Jackson, but Jackson keeps a nose to the outside, and Kyle Bowling continues to fade back for the 24. Tonight's race could be an important one for himself to continue with patience and also consistency of just finishing up front in our top 10, top 5. We've seen him season in, season out do so. We're looking back from the 21 of Ross Tatum getting a good shot of Christopher Wade, which Wade coming off of last week, a race where the 15 had terrible internet issues that cost him a great finish and took him out of the playoff contentions. 15's hoping for redemption here tonight.
Redemption is definitely what he's seeking, Sam, and we'll see if he can do it. Right now, having an excellent run here to start this race off, as he is right all over Ross Tatum, right ahead of him for that 4th position, and really not giving up on it. So right here, everybody trying to draft, and that's something that we want to see a lot here. Is a lot of these drivers are going to draft and kind of use that draft to help them make passes, then also pull away from drivers behind them that are battling. So sometimes early in these races, you don't want to battle too much if you're ahead of the group, because you can start to get away from them, break that draft, and then it's very tough to catch up to somebody.
That is the field showing that it can be very difficult to make some passes. Biggest movers so far can be back in that 15th and 14th position at this time. As see there, Dylan Grimm back in 15th place. Biggest mover up 5 spots, tied with Andrew Medlin, who's in 13th. The 17 has done a great job moving forward. A driver that's kind of not moving as quickly. It's the 10 of Joshua Robinson and Zach, with us being only 8 laps in and only being able to move up just a couple positions. This is not looking good for these drivers that are going to need to get up front at some point in this race. And as well, fuel mileage, pit stops could be factors to help them out.
They really could be factors for sure. And, you know, the tire wear here at Auto Club is very high. This is an abrasive surface, very bumpy and abrasive. So those tires do take a good beating around here. So we could see the 10 maybe doing his classic, you know, save a little bit and try to run these guys down later. But that has got him in trouble in the past, where he's just been too far back to come back with any type of that speed he has. As right now, he's starting to catch up to Lynch with that draft. But this group here, I mean, already 3 seconds behind our leader. And here at Auto Club, you need to stay close to that draft, especially with these lower horsepower ARCA cars.
Everyone in our top 19 in line, just very spaced out from one another, but close enough to have the draft assistance. Our biggest gaps between 14th and 13th, where it's almost a half second between them, as well to Dylan Grimm. 2 drivers have already lost the draft. That's Zach Kreitz and Juan Jimenez. As up front, Andrew Hess trying to defend over that of Thomas Ogle, and Diego Valle starting to show a little bit of signs that it could fall back, but the 77 trying to hold steady in 3rd.
And this is a little bit of a different look for this 5 machine, in my opinion. You know, normally we see him drop back, give up positions early portion of the run, and try to save the tire to come back for later. I think maybe tonight he feels like getting out front will be a crucial thing to do, and he did it quickly there as he got to that lead. As now you can see Ross Tatum there. He's looking for that 3rd spot. As Valle, looking to maybe give up some positions here as this run goes on.
Ross Tatum going to go for a 2-for-1 potentially. Here's Thomas Ogle staying extremely high as the 21. Going to stay side by side. Valle going to be in line with Ross Tatum. So trying to drag strip their way forward. But, you know, you take it going back to that, pushing forward and being up front for Andrew Hess in the 5. Zach, I mean, you said it. This track is abrasive. And when we look at some of the tracks that we talk about abrasiveness, it's usually that clean air that the drivers search for.
It really is. I mean, it helps a ton when you don't have dirty air in front of you to affect the downforce on the front of the nose of these cars. That is so crucial to have, especially at a high-speed track like this. I mean, you're carrying upwards of 100, almost 90 mile an hour into these corners. That takes a lot of downforce and force being put into the tires, into the surface. And the more air that you have to that front nose, which Andrew Hess will have more than anybody being out front, that will only help his tire wear for later, just due to his car not wanting to slide around the racetrack. So it can definitely help getting out front, and I think that's quickly what the 5 is trying to do. Is now the 21 again still trying to overtake that 31, and that's allowed Christopher Wade to get to the outside of the 77 as we got these 4 cars all stacked up.
Stacked up, working together. Thomas Ogle leading the outside lane. Inside lane being led by Ross Tatum. Ross, one of the drivers that got eliminated from last week, same as Christopher Wade and Diego Valle. So the imaginations, the what-ifs certainly arise for these drivers that are running up front. Ross Tatum-wise, he was not able to show up for last week's race and was not able to come out and go for a great run. I know he was hoping for a better stint as for the playoffs at least, but not going to be able to do so for this series. Still in the hunt, though, on Tuesday night for the full send racing series, which I gotta say, this is the fun part of broadcasting and freak fast broadcasting, seeing the changes of drivers from different leagues switching back and forth, and seeing Ross Tatum as well as other drivers like Andrew Medlin and Will Bustler trying to run different leagues and trying to perform many different levels.
I love it, man. That's one of my favorite things to see is guys cross over, and you really get to see how people stack up against each other, and it just shows you the competition level. Ooh, as Rickard got super loose off of 4, and so did Ross Tatum as he's quickly dropping back. I mean, it just shows you the competition level between these leagues, man. All these leagues have such great quality drivers that champions from other leagues can come over to this league and, you know, have nights where they struggle, then have nights where they have great runs. So it just shows you how much parity there is between a lot of these leagues we show.
Rewind for a quick moment as Trey Jackson as well as Scott Rickard trying to find a way to get by Ross Tatum, not able to do so. And as well seeing Aaron Hale get into the mix, as well as the 8 of Jason Grattan. Grattan, what a run the 8 machine had last week to propel himself into the next round of the round of 8 that we are in currently. He was one of those drivers that snuck his way in. It was an impressive drive by the 8 machine. Added a little bit of luck with the timing of the cautions, as well had the speed. And right now running 10th, which you look at where some of the other playoff contenders are, this isn't the worst place to be for the 8 machine.
It definitely is not, Sam. And I mean, look, think about it. Last season, kind of similar storyline for him. He got into that round of 8 and then quietly made his way into that final 4. And I mean, he could very well be looking to do a similar thing here this season and just peak at the right time and really have that consistency to propel him to that championship. So we'll see what Grattan can do, but a good start here, like you said, with a few guys already behind him with those, bad starting positions.
As we look through the field, I mean, certainly it's wide open at this point on who's going to get into the playoffs, mainly because of that of Kyle McCoy not seeing the 28 out there on track, who was second in points coming in this night. So with the fact that that opening is there, could cause some drivers to want to run a little bit too aggressive, as now really where they're running at this current moment, it would be Kyle Bowling. He would take that 4th spot and move on to our final 4, unless we see Kyle McCoy show up next week and win his way into the final 4. But those are those small little changes that are going to be popping up throughout tonight. Is who are you racing around? As see the 18 of Andrew Medlin, we've seen in many of other leagues trying to run well here tonight, as he's our biggest mover right now, up 6 positions.
Working his way up methodically right here is that 18 machine for sure, as he's around Will Bustler now up to that 12th position. And we'll get to see him here on our driver cam. Is always the focus from the 18 machine of Andrew Medlin, just always looking forward and never really seems like he's looking off to the left or right. As we can see Will Bustler, just a big run from him there. And that's what I love about Auto Club. You have those options to do different things in the racing line, and Will Bustler really made the most of it there off of 2 and had a huge run to pass Andrew Medlin back.
And I'm watching the hands from Andrew Medlin. As you can see that centering tape that's on his wheel, you can see how much it's bouncing in the corners. And Zach, I know you can touch on a little bit more about how aggressive this track is on the bumps.
It is very aggressive, especially here right on entry. See, right there as he goes down on entry, you hit a good set of bumps. And then down this back straightaway, the bumps are horrendous, man. I tell you, right by the wall, they are. It's like hitting a set of Supercross whoops. And you just pretty much got to hope that your car goes over them very well, as you see right there, just back and forth over those bumps. And again, that centering just really gets to show you how much they're working the wheel here from center off. And not even really turning that much left really in the corner because that's how much the car's turning. So it's one of those things where he's having to stay right on the edge of the grip level and really having to work that wheel.
I know you've talked about it a lot. That's also lack of turning the wheel. Best ways to save tires is just not overwork it. As we're seeing the 10 trying to make his way forward as well as Joshua Robinson. Talk about how maybe he wasn't making that big movement forward. Well, he is now up 6 positions for the 10 as he is slowly marching his way forward and blocking deeper in the field. The target machine of Jonathan Woods and Brian Lynch blocking for last place practically. Almost causing a wreck back there. Even drivers in the back having their own little squabbles that, again, we've been in a long season. This is race number 18 of the season. And maybe if you had some issues with drivers earlier in the season, they could bubble up here later on.
Yeah, that very well could happen. And you see the right side of the 41. That is where he got into the wall off of 2. And this ARCA car here has a feature to it to where you get into that outside wall, it almost feels like you get glued to it at some point. So it's hard to get off, and I think that's what the 41 was more likely doing, was trying to get off that wall. And you can see right there, turning up off the corner to the inside of the 22 to make the pass for himself there is, whew, these guys are working the rear end here as it's really starting to step out on them. And another thing I just noticed, Christopher Wade went from being up front, now he's back here with this group almost battling for last.
And yeah, and Zach, that is some internet issues that just popped up for the 15. It was like his car just stopped on track, and that's why he fell this far back in the field, because he was up front in 3rd place before he dropped out. And this is almost identical to what happened to the 15 last week before he got completely pushed out of the server because of how bad his connection was. This is going to be something we have to watch out for Christopher Wade, but you hate to see that for a driver that was having such a strong run in these first 20 laps.
That is terrible to see, man. That is something out of his control most likely, and just, you can't do anything about it. It's like our mechanical issues here on the sim is our internet and our computers. So it really comes down to sometimes things just don't work out for you, and you get a tough break like Christopher Wade did there. As now he's always finally back to around the 21st position, but that's heartbreaking for him because having such a good run, even though he's out of the round of 8, you still want to go out there and prove that you could have been a factor coming down to the very end of this thing. But it just shows you sometimes it doesn't play out the way you'd like. But the man that's been on the move, Sam, that 32 is Scott Rickard. He's drove his way up from 11th to 2nd. Let's see if he can hold on to that position, because I feel like he's done that the past few weeks where he's driven up through the field and then his tires just fell off a cliff late into the run. So we'll see if he can manage it well tonight. But right now, looking strong from the 32 camp.
Yeah, biggest mover so far, up 9 positions, qualified back at 11th. And honestly, this charge that the 32 has had, kind of a quiet one, as really wasn't seeing him just shoot past all these drivers. It's just been one driver at a time, slowly working his way up the board. And now to the outside of Andrew Hess, trying to make the pass for the lead is this 32 machine. But he's looking a little tight off the exit, and it's giving Ross Tatum now an opportunity to get to the inside for 2nd place.
That it is, and this is the one thing I love about this racetrack is just how many lanes open up here. This place, you can search. It is not just run the bottom and make speed. It is pretty much find wherever your car works best, find the clean air that the driver's not in front of you, and you can find a little bit extra speed there. As you're seeing Valle, our pole setter, trying to fight off Aaron Hill, who's also one of the big movers here. He's up from that 12th position now, fighting for a top 6.
Slowly moving up. A lot of these drivers, and if we talk about the tire wear, how important it's going to be to watch out for that, and drivers have done. You're starting to see those that were conserving and saving a little bit for this longer run starting to show their speed. And as well, we got to be careful because pit stops could be right around the corner for these drivers. We're going to be running for 100 laps here this evening, and we have seen races here before go caution free. And back in season 4, when these drivers were running in the Cup car, that was a Gen 6, Cup car. The drivers went caution free in that race. Potentially going to happen here tonight, which means green flag pit stops will be coming around the corner.
I feel like that is a kind of a good description of the Stars and Stripes, is the very good possibility to go green. These guys always seem to have that ability to take the races all the way the full distance without having any type of yellow flag to bring the race to a stop. And with that, the strategy is pretty cut and dry right now. I think it's going to be a 2-stopper, and like you said, Sam, I mean, less than 10 laps, that window will open up right around lap 33 to 34. So we could see some early takers there around the 30 mark even. So we'll see how it plays out with that. the pit strategy definitely going to start to kick in here soon. And I think that's why you're seeing everybody just going for it. They know these runs are not going to be the longest, or they're not going to run these tanks dry. They're going to be pretty much having a little bit shorter of a run.
Who's going to take that first opportunity? Do you come in with teammates? There's a lot of different groups that work together throughout these leagues. And we've got about 6 different teams that are mixed and mingled in the Discord chats that have anywhere from 3 drivers to 4 drivers in line. But you see there, jostling behind, it's going to be Trey Jackson bouncing off the wall that caused about 4 or 5 drivers to really have to avoid the 25. And he's dealing with a little bit of front left damage now after that scared. You can see the scrapes on the 25. That is a pretty nasty lick that he's dealing with.
Yeah, it was, and he got a good scrape on the right side, but luckily that right front fender not too damaged, and even the right side rear quarter panel not too damaged. So kind of scathed away luckily there, but did lose a good bit of time. You can see how much time up ahead he lost to that front pack. That, I mean, I think this view shows, just look at all the different lanes. Everybody's searching and trying to find grip. Auto Club is at its finest right here when it's like this.
So you see that at Tim McNally running it back here in 10th position. Also have Will Bustler in the 6th searching, and you can see the very different approaches on entry as Tim McNally went with that swooping corner while Will Bustler kind of went with the aggressive sharpness right into turn 3. Didn't work out, and drivers losing touch. Dylan Grimm trapped in this pot of 4. This 17 was hoping that he could move through the field with Josh Robinson, has lost touch. 17 now, he's searching with speed around other drivers that seem to be struggling at this moment.
It does seem to be that way, Sam. You know, you got to feel for Grimm because he's seen Robinson in the Tin Machine drive his way all the way up to 9th. Right here, Grimm stuck back in 14th, and it's just not working out the longer this run goes for him. He made up some spots very quickly there to start the race, and then kind of just stalled out, and he's been stuck right here with this pack of Trey Jackson, Patrick Hasty, and Nate Lynch. So right now, Dylan Grimm is definitely not liking how this is playing out so far. But again, no stages here, no stage point story. He needs to worry about getting to the end of this race and making up the spots when it counts, and that's when at lap 100. So Grimm still has time, but he needs to definitely find something here because right now, kind of stuck back in this mid portion of the pack.
He's got to find some speed somewhere, but up front, certainly a lot of speed for a leader. Andrew Hess is pulling away from the pack. The gap over a half a second as the 5 has to be given big kudos to Scott Rickard in the 32. That's kind of been a holdup for these drivers. Like we said, the last couple of weeks, he can fly through the field, but then the long run hits where he's just losing a lot of pace. And it once again, giving up another 2 tenths to our leader. The gap now up to 7 tenths between first and second.
Yeah, it's just that trend continuing on, Sam, for him. And even some drivers making their way back through is Diego Valle, our pole setter. I mean, he's trying to fight up here and a little loose off a 2 for him. He's going to get side by side here with Ogle, but it's going to be the 3 up top that are drafting. But somehow the 77 keeps it dead even with that group with a good run off of 2. And now he's going to be fighting for second here. As like you said, Andrew Hess, he's drove off into the distance. It's over a second gap now for the 5 machine, who's doing what he's done, you know, classically throughout the season and just being one of the best drivers when it comes down to worn tires.
Clean air helping with the tires as well. He's able to keep his momentum because he's by himself. The drivers that are side by side, they're losing momentum in small different ways with the side draft on the straightaways, through the corners for some of these drivers that are not able to hit their marks that they want, not able to get into the throttle at times, others having to back out because they almost made contact. And Diego Valle almost completely clear through 1 and 2 over that Ross Tatum. And Diego in the 77, what a comeback by himself. I mean, I honestly thought that he was just going to throw it away like we've seen in past weeks where he qualifies well and then falls back. Tonight, he has found that little bit of extra speed for the long run.
He really has, Sam. This is impressive to see because, like you said, I mean, it's been the syndrome of where he's had speed, but just hasn't had it through the race runs. And right now, it's coming back to him. And no help right now in that bottom lane, but doing a good job of holding strong and trying to make that pass. And I mean, you can just see the different lanes here. This is excellent to see. The one thing I've noticed is we got good drivers using everywhere from all the way to the wall to the white line. Andrew Hess, our leader, he has not moved off of his line. He's running about a second groove off the bottom on both corners, and just hasn't really changed it up at all. And whatever's working, it's working well.
I mean, I talked about how Auto Club, Michigan's sister tracks, that's practically the Michigan line that you want to run, and Andrew Hess is making it work here as drivers coming into pit road. Pit stops early for Kyle Bowling, Terry McNally, as they dart to pit road. There was no audible sound of saying we're coming to pit road. There was no text warning. That was immediate by two drivers that knew it was time to come into pit road.
They saw this pack they were in, and they said, hey, this is time to gain on these guys, because right now everybody in this pack is just losing time to Andrew Hess. And if I was one of these drivers in this group, I'd probably be hitting pit road this time by, because the more you race right in this pack this clogged up, it's just holding you back from making the most speed you possibly can. And like you said, you're just losing momentum on each other. And you're going to see there, Ross Tatum, he likes to come down to 21. Smart decision from him, I believe, to get out of that pack and try to make speed by himself.
Trying to hit those marks, don't want to get caught speeding, as Patrick Hastings, Trey Jackson, as well as Jonathan Woods, Brian Lynch, all coming to pit road to get service done. 14 drivers still need to come into pit road, and oh no, the 22, Brian Lynch locks it up coming into pit road.
Some nose damage from nosing it into the wall there, just a tiny bit for Lynch, and it could have been worse though. That was about as good as it could have played out there for him, as he luckily gets it back going to get to his pit box. But here's Valle in second. He's luckily somewhat broken away, as now I think we're going to have more takers on pit road. Looks like Scott Rickard, Jason Gratton, I believe, will follow him down in the 8 machine, and a few others farther back. Dylan Grimm joining them also as a playoff driver.
And Nate Lynch going to be following the playoff drivers as they enter pit road. Now 10 drivers still need to come in. With the timing that drivers had to come into pit road at lap 30, it's a 40 window. This race is going to be a 2-stop. The question is, do you want to turn this first? Pit stop your longest, the middle, or the last? As we're still right on board with that of Diego Valle, who's being under pressure from Kyle Bowling, who's hoping to unlap himself as one of the drivers that's already made their pit stop. Currently, it's Ross Tatum, Kyle Bowling that are leading the charge. And they're hoping that they can get in front of Andrew Hess before a caution flag comes out, or before the pit cycle is done, as Scott Rickard leaves into pit road. More drivers, Christopher Wade, Zach Kreitz, Will Bustler, Aaron Hale, make their stops, but they do not want to be caught in a caution in the middle of a pit cycle like we did last week that put so many drivers a lap down.
It can happen that quickly, Sam, and your race can be turned upside down on its head with a yellow flag. So we'll see. When does our leader, Andrew Hess, elect to come in? Because right behind him coming into the picture in the next few moments, it's going to be the 24, Kyle Bowling, then the 21, Ross Tatum. And these guys right now running 2 seconds a lap faster than our leader. That's how much fall off we've seen here, and it's going to be time for the 5, because he says, I can wait no longer. Those guys caught up to me. Now bring it down the pit road. No mistakes from the 5 here getting in. Let's see how he gets into his box. But those lap times dropping off that much made those new tires that valuable. I think we might see this 5 jump for position.
I also like the fact of seeing Diego Valle coming in with the 5 machine, is still waiting on 4 drivers, excuse me. That's going to be Joshua Robinson, Thomas Ogle, Juan Jimenez, and Andrew Medlin yet to come into pit road, get their service done. This is the 10, hoping to just lead a couple of more laps, but Joshua Robinson as well as Thomas Ogle kind of in a scare because they're both trying to figure out how to get into pit road, but there's so much heavy traffic, it's almost impossible as Thomas Ogle gets almost ran over as he's trying to find his way in, and they have to stay out for an extra lap, Zach, even though over the radio they were saying they wanted to come into pit road. The traffic too thick for either the 10 or the 31.
That was worst case scenario for the 10 and the 31. They did not want to see that happen, because now they got to go another lap, and they're just getting their doors blown off. And this is tough. When you have guys driving by you on the outside, right to the inside, it makes it where you have to lift because you cannot run the corner the way you want. And right now you can see Robinson, he's ducking low, saying, go high around me, guys, because I'm trying to get to pit road, as him and his teammate Ogle need to get down this time because they are losing an inordinate amount of time right now.
They lost way more. I mean, this lap, I think they might have given up maybe 2 or 3 seconds on top of the 2 they were already losing just based off the lack of pace on tires. Now coming into pit road, Juan Jimenez decided to stay out for an extra lap. Andrew Medlin stays out for an extra lap. And these 2 drivers hoping for this race to have a quick caution that can give them the track position that they're hoping for. But Joshua Robinson, Thomas Ogle, that is a complete nightmare on trying to get into pit road that last time by.
Nightmare indeed, Sam. It's so tough when you have drivers coming up behind you like that. They're just looking for any way to get around you, and sometimes it's the bottom, and that's where you need to be if you want to pit, and it makes it tough to get the pit road, especially the timing of how that all shook out. But Jimenez here out front and all by himself right now is he was running some good lap times all by himself out front here. Let's see how he works this because, again, stretching it very, very far. He's going to lose a ton of time here in this portion of the run, but will he catch a caution? I think that's exactly what you brought up is, if he does, that really opens up the door for this 48.
And or is he trying to stretch his fuel out to try to get to the halfway marker? I don't believe these drivers can make it, as there weren't any other drivers really looking for that option, but certainly it would be a thrilling race if we could see either Andrew Medlin or Juan try to save their fuel to make it to that end, to that halfway marker at lap 50. But looking at the drivers that have already come to pit road, leading the charge, Kyle Bowling and Ross Tatum. Ross is currently caught by Scott Rickard, which should be for third place. Tim McNally has done a great job doing an undercut, pitting sooner than everyone else. Jason Gratton has done a great job undercutting Andrew Hess. Aaron Hill's currently pressuring the 5, and Andrew Hess, technically, if you look at the drivers that have already pitted, would have fallen back to 6th place for the 5 machine. And looking at the times, around 5.5, almost 6 seconds difference from where the 5 machine is to the 24.
It shows you how big that undercut advantage will be. I mean, at some point, the tires will help the 5 over these drivers ahead of them, but right now it's going to be the toughest time because they're going to be as close as possible when it comes to those lap times. And we'll see the 5 probably start to make a good bit of time here in the next 10 to 15 laps, but it's going to take some time for sure. As you can see him in the background there, just getting around Aaron Hill, and he'll have Jason Gratton next for him on the list in that 8 machine. But, the looking at lap times here, Sam, I'm thinking that Andrew Medlin is saving fuel. He is really off pace, and I think he might be trying to stretch it to that lap 50. I mean, I was watching him in the corners, very little RPM. I think this 18 here may be trying to stretch it out, and this could be a interesting strategy because he's still got 19 seconds to the next car, Kyle Bowling. This will be very interesting to see if this 18 can make this work.
And if anything, if Andrew Medlin's going to make this work, he has to make sure that he at least has a 10-second gap lead over the other drivers by the time that it gets to the halfway marker and comes into pit road. The reasoning why is those other drivers are not expected to push their fuel out to the fullest extent. They're gonna try to undercut whoever tries to go to halfway marker, so they've got better tires to run those drivers down. And honestly, if you're one of the drivers trying to go for this oddball strategy, certainly it's gonna be a weird call, but because Andrew Medlin has just lost over almost 3 seconds just in this lap alone.
It really shows how much how slow he's going right now to save this fuel. Is he's losing a ton of time, but he will, once he comes to pit road, have that little bit of advantage of tires to gain some of that time back. But like you said, at laps around 66, the other drivers come in, they'll have fresher tires than him, so they'll start to gain time there. So it's kind of that ebb and flow back and forth between the two strategies. I like the call to here to do it. No worries for him, not in the round of 8 here. So he's just going for a win. This might be an interesting call to play out for him. And if he can stretch it farther than, say, lap 50, if he can get to 51, that gives him another whole lap less to save, and he can go that much faster at the next end of the next run. So we'll see if he just can get to that 50 marker, or if he can stretch it a little bit tiny farther to give him that wiggle room to really be able to push the car.
And momentum builders are some of these races that you go into that really have nothing that you're running for. As we look back at some of the other drivers out on track, this is where we found the 12 machine of Tim McNally, who is ahead of the 5 of Andrew Hess. Hess has gotten by, but expected to see the 5 in screen now. And Hess is putting down some burners. This 5 machine is doing everything in its power to catch up to the 12, catch up to Ross Tatum and Kyle Bowling. And I gotta say, Zach, I think the drivers that did the undercut, that could be the ultimate strategy right now, because they're doing a great job holding off some of these other drivers.
They really are, Sam. I think the undercut has worked very well so far because, we're not even far away from the next set of pit stops. We're about 21 laps away from the next set of stops. And Andrew Hess still to Kyle Bowling has about 3 seconds up to him. So Andrew Hess still has a ton of ground to make up, but as he gets close to that 12, the 12 gets super loose there to McNally. Good job holding on to that machine, but that's going to make an easy pass for the 5, as now he's going to have clear track ahead of him, about 2 seconds up to Scott Rickard. Let's see how much he can gain on this group up ahead.
This group up ahead, the 3 drivers have already pitted. That is for what should become first, second, and third. Once we see our top 2 coming to pit road, they are battling. This is costing time. It's going to help Hess catch up to these 3 machines, as Ross Tatum and Kyle Bowling, older tires, trying to hold off Scott Rickard with the 2-lap fresher tires in Kyle Bowling in the 24, the 1-lap fresher tires in the 21 of Ross Tatum. But the battling's still great as we're inching closer and closer to halfway, as third place runner of Ross Tatum now within 10.5 seconds of Andrew Medlin, but 22 seconds off of Juan Jimenez, which, I mean, Juan right now, Zach, is in a prime position. If he somehow makes this fuel work with how much less time he's been giving up compared to Andrew Medlin, this is incredible by the 48.
I mean, Sam, if he makes it to lap 50 at the pace he's running and we stay green, this 48 is going to be a problem for the rest of the field that they need to figure out, because he has got a ton of a gap here. I mean, it's 21 seconds back to Ross Tatum. This 48, I mean, he's done some impressive things so far this season in his couple debut races here, and he could very well be looking to do one here to surprise everybody once again, because this is just so much fuel he saved. And even Andrew Medlin, he pit last time by here at 48. How did Juan Jimenez do this? I wonder, Sam, looking back at it, he ran very, very slow to start this race off. His fastest time was a 42.100. So he was, almost a whole second off some of the fastest times we ran. He could have been saving right from the start. This 48 might have just played the field.
I mean, if he's saving right from the start, he's got the draft assistance. He's not trying to save fuel by himself, which is a maximum save on top of that. And he's got to make sure he doesn't just throw this race away, though, because he's 2 laps away, practically a lap and a half, from trying to get to the point this 48 needs to be to make this one pit stop strategy work. With 20-second advantage over Ross Tatum, he could back off his pace by 3 or 4 more seconds, but he's not going to be able to make it. He has to come into pit road, as he's going to be 2 laps shy from making it to the crucial point. Juan Jimenez, it's a 20-second buffer, but I don't think that's enough time to save, as Ross Tatum, Scott Rickard, Kyle Bowling, they continue to rage on and are about to take the lead back.
This is going to be fun to see what Jimenez can do. Can he save those extra bit of laps here on this next part, and how much time will that lose him? He's not going to most likely have the draft like he did, and also he slid through his box. I was just watching him slid through his box a tiny bit, so lost some time there. But Ross Tatum going to take control of the lead now, passing by him. And Rickard here, I think if you're Scott Rickard, you got to want to try to get by this guy quickly, Ross Tatum, because Andrew Hess, he has quickly cut that 2-second lead down to only a half a second to the leader. He is right behind this group, only 0.3 back.
And it is that of 3 seconds difference on tires between our leader to 4th place of Andrew Hess. That is a massive gap, and our 5 machine, if anything, we could ride on board with Andrew Hess just to get a sense on the speed difference, as he's about to blow on by and just show these 3 drivers, they might work in the draft, but they're about to lose all their positioning just in this next lap. There is so much speed in the 5 of Andrew Hess with the set of tires that he has on. But as he sees which lanes the drivers are picking, he stays in the same one that he was running before, Zach. I mean, he picks his lane, he's sticking with it even in the draft.
I love it. It is amazing to see he's sticking right to what he believes is going to work, and he's already around the outside of Bowling. Going to clear him down into 3. And what's interesting is the 21 and 32, each time they've been right on the white line the last few laps, they're going to change their lineup now as they see this 5 coming, as he's going to quickly close in. But look at that little bit of looseness there, that dirty air, losing that nose, and then that rear end starts to step out. That 5 having to work that wheel. This is going to be a little bit tougher than I think we were assuming, but it's still, I think, a done deal. That is 5. At some point, we'll get past these 2 ahead of them.
3 of our top 4 playoff contenders. If one of them wins, they are locked into the final 4 and will run for a championship in Bristol in 2 weeks, as it is heating up. Andrew Hess, the dominant driver before pit stops coming in. And the 5 doing his best to get into pit road as get into victory lane, as once pit stops have been done, the 5 went with the longest push out of all these drivers that we're seeing in the mix here, as this is certainly some chaos to see those hands working out of the exit of the corner. But Zach that continues to look at how the drivers are trying to be aggressive here into these corners.
Being very aggressive right now, and I think that 5, he saw how many laps he led at the beginning. He wants to get right to that lead. He does not want to waste any bit of time because he knows how valuable that clean air can be. And right now with Ross Tatum and Scott Rickard right ahead of him side by side, this 5 machine knows this is his chance to pounce on these two because of the momentum loss when he gets side by side.
Trying to get side by side, trying to make this pass. Ross Tatum's been doing a great job, and Scott Rickard finally able to climb his way forward, but it gives the opening for Andrew Hess. Rickard going to be sliding up, though. He has a slight slip, and Andrew Hess now can have an opportunity to set up to make this pass into turn number 1. The 5 may not have the draft on the straightaways, but at least he's there on the entry of the corner.
He is there for sure, Sam, and now even going to be onto the inside of the 32 here is Rickard a little bit loose there off of the exit, and the 5 even working that rear end a little bit too, as they're going to be dead even down the back straightaway. But where does Ross Tatum go? He looked like he thought about for a moment maybe shooting the middle, but he backs out of it for this lap, as now the 5 going to be looking to clear the 32 down here, but the 32 fights back to that outside there with a good drive through the center. Can he have the run off? And the 5's just going to have to settle in here for second because, again, that 32 fighting strong.
And driver who's being sneaky quick, closing in because of the hard battle that's going on. Aaron Hale starting to close in on this battle. Where do you go if you're this group? Trying to find out the placement as the 5, once again, going to be settling for a great launch out of the corner, trying to get up to speed. And Scott Rickard going to be a sitting duck. He's got to block this entry into turn 3.
I think you're exactly right about Aaron Hill, Sam. He snuck his way into the picture, and if the 5 here, Andrew Hess, has trouble getting around this 32 or such, he could be the driver to watch out here. So that 40 trying to work his way up here and get past Bowling and Tatum, but right now that 32 doing a good job of holding Andrew Hess off, just having enough speed to do it. And again, a 2-lap difference on the tires between these two. It's just showing, yeah, the tires are valuable, but that clean air can be just that much more valuable.
Seeing and angling is going to be your top 5 with one another. Huge gap back to 6 is 1 second. And that's where Jason Gratton is going to have to figure out a pit stop strategy, get himself back into the mix. As Aaron Hale ducks it down low for that a third. First place under fire is Andrew Hess trying to make a pass. Both lanes on the insides where the fast drivers seem to be. As Scott Rickard, not as much draft assistance. It's going to keep the battle for the lead still underway. As Aaron Hale trying to grab some type of a tow, but just not a big enough one from the 5 machine. As Hess once again goes for the lead.
Once again going for that lead up front, and that 5 machine, he wants to get this done. He knows what is on the line for him as he's holding on to that inside below the 32. But the runs that the 32 is getting off the high line is just making it very, very tough for Andrew Hess. And I think here in the 3, this will be the telltale sign. What can Rickard do here to keep him alongside here on the exit? 5 washes up a little bit in the center, and the 32 going to be there once again. This is going to keep them side by side.
Outside lanes just too powerful at this moment, but we talk about tires, how important they are. At what point is Scott Rickard's tires just going to give up on this aggressive battling to keep this position? That outside lane, you use up so much more grip than the inside groove. As you see the 32, if he washes up just once, it's going to be the opening the 5's looking for. As again, we drag strip our way into turn number 3, and it's the 5 just behind as they enter turn 3.
And this is great because we're getting close to the pit window. That, again, around lap 66 will be when we'll look to start the pit again. And that 5 just tight right now, a little tight loose, and holding on to that machine, almost washing up into that 32 there, Sam. That was close action between them. But if Scott Rickard can just fight this off for a little bit longer, this is going to make it very doable to fight for this 5 for the win. And man, he's done a great job so far. At some point, though, if you're the 5 Andrew Hess, you got to look to throw that slide job, because right now Aaron Hale's got past the 2 behind him, and he may be coming in the 40.
Who can get the better runs for each other? Starting to see openings build up as Andrew Hess doing his best to get into the mix here. He'll throw it down the inside. but can he hold on? We saw the huge wiggle last time around in the center of the corner. There's not much of a wiggle this go around, as I think Hess has recognized he has to find a way to get to the outside quarter panel, as Rickard blocking in the center. He's trying to find a way to break off the draft as everyone else snaking behind the 32.
Trying to get any advantage Rickard can. He's trying to break that draft, knowing how crucial that can be. And, you know, with how this played out last time, Andrew Hess waiting a little bit longer. I wonder what his strategy will be this time, just noticing how tough it's been since he's got to the 32, because I feel like if he got ahead of the 32, he'd drive away from him, but just hasn't been able to get it done. So at some point here, the 5's got to realize that maybe I can't wait too long to pit, because it just makes it that much tougher when coming back through the field. Is again side by side, but Rickard just being so consistent up there, Sam, and making it tough. And again, with these guys being side by side, that's bringing only the 40 that much closer.
And as some of the other aggressive racing was going on, Jason Grant has now caught up to that of Kyle Bowling as well as Ross Tatum, and making the pass as the 5 finally with the slide job move to get ahead of the 32 for the lead. And can he pull away? 61 laps have been put in and dusted. Can Scott Rickard retaliate in some fashion here to try to go back for the lead? He'll stay on the outside lane, and the 5 puts his back bumper right where the nose is, the dirty air. Will it wash up the 32? And it looks like he just doesn't have the speed that he once before, as snaking once again begins with just that of 39 laps to go.
Yeah, with that pit window right around the edge, Scott Rickard is loving this, because last time he pit, he was about 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds behind this 5. Now this next pit stop coming up, he should be much, much closer, as he's able to stay actually good right behind the 5. As that 5 had to really drive it in there deep to clear that 32 in the middle of 1 and 2, maybe overheating those tires just a little bit. So it may take a few laps for that 5 to get back up to where he feels like he can drive away from him. But right now, Scott Rickard has done a great job through the second phase of the race to keep himself close, because right now our top 3 have driven away from the next 3.
They have certainly done so. Andrew Hess last time by, fastest driver of our top 3. Aaron Hill was faster by 1/10. But as pit stops are right around the corner, this might be one of the few times we have to come in for a commercial break. So we'll take our opportunity before the drama of pit road begins. Hey, thank you for joining with us for the Stars and Stripes on Thursday night. It's playoff racing action for the round of 8 here at Auto Club, the first race of this round. We'll be back for the rest of this race here tonight in just a few moments as we go side by side.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Basket can't defend. He's got the outside line for the second part, and he can't hold on.
Going the long way around. We're going to be 3 wide for the lead as they all come to the line. Who is going to take it in the end?
And here comes Lockwood. He's going to make the move to the outside. Quinn tries to force him off a little bit, but there he goes. It's going to be side by side through turn 1.
Will he be able to cover him off? He does. Weaving back to the left-hand side. Reynolds is trying everything. The kitchen sink is being thrown at it.
They're leaning on each other. Coming into turn number 3. It's going to be a drag race through 3 and 4. Coming back to the line. Here comes Frisch on the bottom. Richard's going to hold the inside. Tries to be the late breaker here. They're going to be side by side through the final chicane. They bang doors, but keep it clean.
As that's still 4 wide on the run down into the back straightaway. Demerit's looking for a line as well. What is going on in Michigan?
Novak into the fence. They're still beating and banging.
Oh my
and to the line.
He is much faster coming through there. Is there damage on Challenger? Abramitis is ahead. There's going to be a race to the line. Who is going to get it?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Stars and Stripes throwback season as we are in the middle of the playoffs, the start of the round of 8, first race of 2, as these drivers in the middle of pit stops. We got to give a huge shout out to some of the amazing sponsors here for the Stars and Stripes as some of our front runners hit the pit road, and our sponsors being ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. Instead of hearing the sounds, why not feel them with your Gamer 2 from ButtKicker? And as well, Next Level Racing. If you want to find yourself with your own racing rig with comfort and affordability, go to Next Level Racing today. Thank you so much to the amazing sponsors that help out here at Stars and Stripes, as drivers in the middle of pit stop still wait for our top 4 to come into pit road, which has Andrew Hess, Aaron Hale, Diego Valle, and Juan Jimenez. Zach, huge surprise. Andrew Hess still out on track.
Really huge surprise that he's letting these guys do the undercut once again. I mean, it did work out well here where he was again pulling away again right at the last few laps and it was opening the gap up, but he saw how difficult it was. It could get a little dicey coming down to the checkered flag for that final position if he doesn't hit pit road here in the next few laps. We'll see when he elects to come down, but right now you can see everybody, it's getting busy off that exit. Drivers are all trying to make up time.
Trying to make up time. Again, a lot of these, almost the whole entire majority of the field going with a 2-stop. Juan Jimenez is a driver. It looks very much almost impossible, but the 48 is trying to turn this race into a 1-stop, so he's going to be the driver to watch out for later on. You can see the drivers mixing and mingling their way forward as Diego Valle staying out as he had no way of coming into pit road, but Aaron Hale does pit, which might be a sign that Andrew Hess could be coming in this time by.
Yeah, we've seen those two pit pretty similar last time here. We'll see if the 5 elects to do it. I think the one thing he can't let happen is what happened to his teammates at Ogle and them is, let drivers get to his inside and not allow him to get the pit road, because everybody flying by on this inside here, it's closing off that entry. And right here, you're going to see Scott Rickard, Kyle Bowling. Both these drivers go right on by, and then there's another group right behind this. So the 5 might be in a predicament where he needs to quickly get down to the bottom and let it be known that, hey, I'm coming to pit road, because you get stuck like Ogle and Robinson did, he could be in very big trouble.
As some drivers having extended times in pit road, Aaron Hale was looking like a threat there in the middle of this last run. The 40 machine messing up in pit road, cost himself over about half a second with his pit stop. Over the radio, the 5 indicating he's coming into pit road, so he goes to the inside defending, but he's got Dylan Grimm, Ross Tatum, very aggressive on top of one another, pinching, driving, and almost was the 21 of the 17 making collisions to our leader as Hess hits pit road.
Ooh, Sam, that was so close, man. That could have been Andrew Hess's race up in smoke. Luckily for him, he makes it stick, and once again, Diego Valle follows him down. So the 77 sticking to what the 5 has done, but this is going to transition that lead here to Juan Jimenez, and he's going to have about a 20-second gap back to Scott Rickard. Ooh, if Jimenez can save this fuel, this is going to be fun to watch.
I mean, he's on a spot where if he loses a second to 2 seconds each lap, he is still going to be caught. He's got to minimize the distance between the gap that's going to be lost. And Juan as well has to find a way to save fuel. The numbers don't look right for the 48 to make it to the end. I think if he didn't slide through his box, costing him a second or two there, maybe he would have a chance. But I got to say, it's looking very close on if he can keep this pace to the end of the race. But Zach, like we were talking on before, he was about 2 laps shy from making it to the halfway, which means he's got to find out to save at least 2 to 3 laps of fuel on top of just trying to make it to the last marker he was at.
That makes it tough. It really does. I mean, and this is a 2-mile racetrack. When you talk about 3 laps, you're saying 6 miles of fuel that you have to make pop up from your driving. So it's going to be very tough. If he can even get to the lap 100 distance, I think we should commend him for that. It's probably going to take a very slow pace to do it. Right now, running a 42.97, so just over a second slower than Scott Rickard this last time by, but still has some good long run pace to where if he does make the fuel stretch, it could get very interesting. And nonetheless, even if we get a caution, that's one thing that can play out also. He can stretch this as far as possible. He's not in the playoffs. He has nothing to lose here by doing this. And if we get that caution, it's going to be a big, big change for him.
A driver that is stuck deep in the field, Andrew Hess, is all the way back in 14th position. Zach, this is a tough pill to swallow for the 5 machines. Right on board with him, you see Andrew Medlin, who's an extreme fuel saving, as his strategy is not working out for 18 machine. With this 5, he's got a lot of work to be done as he'll take those 2 positions, now up to 12. But it's still a long road to find himself getting up front to the lead.
It is a very long road for sure. I mean, up to Scott Rickard, I mean, you're looking at almost 5 seconds, and that is a dire situation, I think, that he's put himself in now. So we'll see if the 5 can do it. He's had the pace all night long. He's going by his teammate at Oval. Now let me catch his teammate Joshua Robinson here, along with Trey Jackson right ahead of him. He needs to make very quick work through this traffic. He cannot be held up. He needs to have very good passes and not be held up by any of them. So we'll see what he can do, man. But this is not the greatest sign for him here because Scott Rickard nailed pit road.
He really did nail it. Another couple of drivers that we watch out for. Jason Bratton, who's looking quick at the end of that run. I think the 8 machine, looking at all the drivers that were in the fight during that middle section that we had from between pit stop number 1 and pit stop number 2. Andrew Hess obviously was the favorite. Aaron Hill had some quick pace. The 8 of Jason Bratton was sneaky quick, kept himself in the fight. Watch out for that 8 machine. If Andrew Hess can't catch up, Scott Rickard and Kyle Bowling, could be this 8 that's on his own, just trying to keep within striking distance if those other 2 drivers use up those tires just a little bit too much.
It very well could be, and Jason Bratton always showing up right in the playoffs, man. And it's like I said earlier, he's peaking at the right time. This could be his opportunity to go back-to-back seasons in that Final Four, and we'll see how he looks to do it. I mean, he's done a great job because pitted, 9 laps ago here now, and he's ahead of guys like Ross Tatum that pitted on the same lap. Dylan Grimm, who pit a lap earlier, so he's jumped ahead of them and really positioned himself well for the last little portion of this run of this race. The question is, how much can he hold on to for now? And even if Jimenez has to come to pit road, this looks like a top 3 possibly run for this 8.
But that of Andrew Hess is back in 7th position, closing in quickly. It's now down to 4.5 seconds, the difference between 2nd and 7th. So Hess has cut down that difference, and you can see him in the background. We're looking at the 8. That 5 is making his moves forward. And he's got a 4-lap difference compared to Scott Rickard, 4-lap fresher tires. Then has 5-lap fresher tires than Kyle Bowling, Jason Bratton, Ross Tatum, who are the drivers ahead of this 5 machine. And he's making these passes look easy. Every time he just ducks down low from the driver in front of him, makes the pass, and then just moves on to the next driver in front as it continues to dwindle down, now down to almost 3 seconds between the 5 and that of the 32.
This is so critical for the 5 to make those passes this quickly and not get held up by any of these drivers, really. So, well done job by Andrew Hess to bring it down to already 3 seconds between him and Scott Rickard. And we could see the battle being on because, again, last time during that last run, it was a 2-lap difference between Scott Rickard and Andrew Hess. This time going to be a 4-lap difference. So it's going to be that much more of an advantage for the 5. If he does get to that 32, it'll make that much more easier to get around him. It's just going to be the question is if he can get there. As right now, Kyle Bowling loving how he's doing here tonight as he's matching lap times with the driver ahead of him with Scott Rickard.
Keeping it close, keeping it within a second. He still has slight draft assistant on the straightaways, as well as having a lap car there that's going to keep it even closer. As you see those drivers in a line, it's the 22 of Brian Lynch, who's 1 lap down after being passed by our leader. Big watch out for these drivers so far. Currently our leader, Juan Jimenez, in the 48 machine, has a 12, a little bit less than a 12.5 second gap over Scott Rickard, as he's given up less than a second each lap, though, these last couple of laps, and that's exactly what he's needing so far to keep him in the mix. But sadly, it's looking like based off the rate that Juan is losing on his gap, he might be caught in the next 10 to about 13 laps, which is going to give plenty of time to make this pass if you're Scott Rickard, Kyle Bowling, Jason Gratton, or that of Hess, that are closing in quickly on top of one another.
They're all closing in definitely on top of each other, and the more they race each other, the more it slows them down. That gives Jimenez just that little bit better chance. And I got to say, for the pace that Jimenez is running, 42.90s right now, those are very good lap times, 32 laps into a run. It could even out between the lap times of some of these drivers behind him. Scott Rickard may hit that plateau point, because right now, 42.43 for Scott Rickard, 42.92 for Juan Jimenez. That's a half a second per lap. At that rate, we wouldn't even see, I believe, Scott Rickard catch him. So, but again, he's got to save fuel, though. I think that is the number one thing that plays out here. You got to save a ton of fuel here at this moment if you're Juan Jimenez, if you want to get to the end of this race.
And also talking about Juan, once again, you kind of brought it up on the last run right before he came into pit road for his one and only pit stop so far. But Juan's fastest lap that he's put down is just a 42.0. The rest of the field, low 41s are their fastest times. So just based off of raw pace, Juan has been saving at least a second or more just based off of his starting times compared to other drivers. But obviously, trying to save that of 3 laps, 6 miles, it is a lot to do. And just that of 30 to 40 laps, but 48's going to do his best. Or just wait for caution flag to come out, as there's only been one race where there wasn't a caution thrown, which was back at season 4, where the driver that won that race was Kyle McCoy. But other races, we've had anywhere from 3 to 7 cautions. But this season has been the season of no yellow, Zach. I mean, there's been 6 races so far this season with no cautions thrown.
It has been super impressive to see, and it's been a trend, that is for sure, for this group. So I wouldn't put it past them to get all the way to this thing completely green here with, now closing into 15 laps to go here in the next few laps. It's very well possible, but at the same time, you never know. It's racing. We could have a caution with 2 to go. It's always very much possible out there when you're racing at these high speeds, and we could very well see it, and that could be what Juan Jimenez needs to make it to the end of this race. But you see here, Joshua Robinson making the pass on Dylan Grimm, moving his way up to 7th, as Robinson has had a quiet day working his way up from a bad starting spot. I think he's got enough pace here in hand. He could run down this 21 of Ross Tatum.
And right now for Joshua Robinson, coming into this race, he was technically 5th in points. You have to be in the top 4 of points or win to lock yourself in if you're a playoff driver. And for the 10, the driver that he was trying to make sure he was ahead was Thomas Ogle. The difference on those drivers is 6 points for themselves, only 2 positions ahead. So Joshua Robinson still need a lot of time to be grabbed. But because Kyle McCoy did not show up for tonight's race, it's going to put the 28 in a must-win scenario. So if you're going to point your way into the next round, you might have to be in the top 3 of points with how strong we know Kyle McCoy can be at the mile and a half if he shows up next week.
I'd have to 1,000% agree with you, Sam, because I feel like if you're that 4th place guy in points leaving here tonight, you got to have at least a little bit of worry just knowing what Kyle McCoy has done in the past in playoff races here at Stars and Stripes. He could very well go win that race to lock himself in, and that could be a heartbreaker for a driver that was 4th in points. So we'll just have to see how it works out next week at Kentucky. But I will say, It is, oh wow, is actually just noticed on the board. Andrew Hess has made the pass on Scott Rickard already. That 4-lap advantage he has just made the world of difference.
It was a blitz of a pass. I mean, he just caught up to Kyle Bowling, Scott Rickard, and said, I'll take this from you, as he is now the lead driver. And the main reason why Scott Rickard and Kyle Bowling, they were so aggressively trying to catch up to Juan Jimenez that they burned up their tires almost immediately because of that. Andrew Hess has just been patient with just having the 4-lap advantage. And now Juan went from, I feel comfortable on trying to keep this lead because how slow Scott Rickard and Kyle Bowling were running, to a little bit of concern because Hess is putting down almost a second faster times in that 48. With just the amount of laps that are left, Juan could be caught with 4 to 3 laps to go.
It very well could happen, Sam. This is what we're going to see here. Is the time before it was about 8 tenths. This time by about 7 to another 8 tenths. So yeah, it's quickly closing down. It's 8 seconds here, and if he can gain 8 tenths per lap, he catches him with 2 laps to go. So we'll see how it works out. But the thing again, Jimenez needs to save that fuel. We don't know if he makes it, but again, I mean, it might not be a winning strategy for this 48 car, but this very well could play out to be a top 5 if he makes it to the end of this race.
That is the key. Can he make it to the end? The 48 is riding the shortest way around this track, staying low, cutting down on times, getting the draft assistance from Andrew Medlin, who as well most likely cannot make it to the end, but the 18 continues to stay out because he's banking on a yellow at this time. And Andrew Medlin now going to be going a lap down, become the first car a lap down. So if a caution flag comes out, at least they'll get the lucky dog pass. But man, has this race been turned upside down with Juan Jimenez trying this one stop and coming to 11 laps to go. The difference, 7 seconds. And oh man, what a run it's been for the 48.
It has been a great run for him for sure, Sam. I mean, to run a second off pace and, you know, be planning this strategy, you got to be pretty much hoping it goes green. And again, nothing to lose for him because not involved in the playoffs. He's just going out for a win. So I like the off-the-wall strategy that he's thrown out here tonight. This is really cool to see, and it's going to give us quite the show if he can make it to the end.
And if you want to see a show that's going to be just as incredible as this one has been here tonight, well, June 10th, right around the corner in just a month, here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, we have our second charity race, which is going to be our last one of the year. It is the Gamer Outreach 600. Got the Gen 4 Cup cars at Charlotte for 400 laps, 600 miles, and this is your last time to help out with this year with our charity races. And Zach, I cannot wait for it. I know we've got tons of drivers already signed up, but plenty of other spots still open to be grabbed.
Yeah, still plenty of spots out there, man. We got about 25 guys signed up at the moment, so still looking for some drivers to join us there for our 600 miles and raise some money for Gamers Outreach, which we're already over $300. I got to commend the drivers for doing an excellent job that have already signed up and really, being very charitable to the Gamers Outreach Foundation. So it's great to see, people from iRacing come out here and really want to support a charity and also become, part of the community here at Freaky Fast. So again, check out that Discord, check out all the entry fees and stuff there, or entry forms there, and get that $5 minimum donation in, and you could be joining us for 600 miles at Charlotte that I'm sure nobody's going to want to miss. That's going to be action-packed and with all that horsepower in that Gen 4 car.
And if you're not able to send money, because we know financial reasons can hold people back, a free way to help, just share the link, share about this event. If you want to share our social media posts that we've done about this event that we have coming up, or just sharing to other drivers or family members about this event would be greatly appreciated for our Gamer Outreach 600. That's all for a great cause, as tonight's race, you're watching the California 200 at Auto Club for the Stars and Stripes throwback season 6 for this league, and they've had plenty of ups and downs, but we are now coming to just that of 8 laps, about to be 7 when Juan crosses the line again to go in this race. The gap, 5 seconds, and Juan Jimenez still, we do not know if he can make it on fuel. We know once we get to 4 to go, 3 to go, that's when you're crossing your fingers and hoping the 48 saved enough fuel. While the 5, he's going to be closing in and should, based off of his pace, be right on the back bumper with 2 to 3 to go.
It's going to be close, Sam, especially if he can save the fuel. it's going to get really spicy there with about 3 to 4 to go, like it's saying, man. So we'll see what Jimenez has. I mean, he's had tremendous pace up to this point, still running 43.2s, which Andrew Hess last time by 42.8. So still faster from the 5 machine, but not that much faster. I mean, you would think a 23 lap difference on tires would be this a huge distinctive difference, but Jimenez has just done a good job saving fuel, which in turn saves some tires, and that's allowed him to run very strong pace. I mean, he's faster than some of the guys who pit 26 laps ago.
It's crazy. I'm looking at these times, and then one of the drivers that's being sneaky quick right now, back in 6th place, Joshua Robinson. He is one of the fastest drivers of those that have already pitted. And the 10 machine is in a position where he could grab a top 5 finish for himself, or even more, if the 48 cannot take this machine to the end. 6 laps to go. As the field, you're seeing the drivers that have the red banners. Those are the drivers that are in the playoffs, that are in the Elite 8 round. You only see 7 colors. That's because Kyle McCoy was not able to show up for tonight's race. But these 7 drivers have done a great job of getting themselves up front, trying to go for top 5 runs. Dylan Grimm, who's struggled here tonight, he's fallen all the way down and currently battling for a top 10 position. All the other drivers, I mean, Zach, Thomas Ogle, probably the biggest surprise on how much he is not even struggling, you could say, but based off the other playoff contenders, you could say struggling with 5 laps to go.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Sam. I was going to bring that up, that Ogle not having the greatest night, a little bit of an off night for that 31, and I think that's the one driver in my mind, if anybody, these drivers want to keep out of that Bristol final race, because we seen last season, I mean, he dominated that race. Didn't get the win, but led so many laps of that longer race they had that Ogle will be an issue if they get to Bristol. That's one of his favorite tracks for sure, and he's been bringing that up a lot. So with him having a tough run here tonight, Kentucky may get very, very interesting for that 31 team, especially with guys like Joshua Robinson, his teammate, with a possibility still to go for a top 5, even a top 4 position with him catching up to Grattan and Bowling.
4 laps to go, and for Thomas Ogle, he's hoping that this race can continue on and he can just get the best finish he can. And for Juan Jimenez, he is trying to be another thief in the playoffs, stealing another round opener. He did it back in the last round, and he's hoping to get another win here tonight. The 48, 4 laps to go, and Zach, he has now entered the unknown of if the 48 will even have the fuel to make it to the end of this race.
It is the unknown time, as they would say, for sure. It's going to be 3 laps to go, 6 miles. We said he had to save 6 miles. Well, let's see how well he's done to save those, because personally, if he saves the fuel, he's got the gap. It's 3.9 seconds back to Andrew Hess, and really only gaining 3 to 4 tenths a lap. That's not going to be enough for it. So you can see here that RPM's dropping on that 48. That's him pushing the clutch in this car and deactivating the motor so it can save as much fuel as possible. He's going the max fuel save here.
I'm trying to see if I can listen in and see if he's turning off the engine. I know that's a strategy for some drivers. He's just clutching it in, not fully turning off the engine through the corners, not risking it if it won't fire back up. But this 48, the gap is big enough. In this lap alone, he actually has kept the distance. Hess did not catch much on this. If anything, I think the 48 might have pulled away on this lap.
He did. He pretty much pulled away right there. I mean, it was almost identical lap times between them crossing the line. So whatever the 48's doing, he needs to keep it up. If he can just somehow make it back for 4 miles, he's going to win this race. And I mean, it could be on a sputter, Sam, here out of 4. But right now, coming down the back straightaway, everything's looking up to power. And this 48 might have been another thief here in this round.
I mean, Juan Jimenez came in the middle of the season as a driver that was supposed to just fill in for Scalise, who was here for the first couple of races of this season, fully moved over to a full time. And what a star he has been. It's your freaky fast white flag in the air. And can Juan have the fuel to take the race to the end and turn this race into a one-stop?
Interesting to see him go up to the top side here as he's up the groove there into the wall. That's going to slow him down a ton here and lose a lot of momentum down his back straightaway. I think with pushing that clutch in, that car went way up the racetrack for him, just didn't have the turn, but he's got the gap. He just needs a little power off of 4.
He just needs the fuel. He just needs to make it out of the corner and be able to just throttle it up and have enough momentum. The gap is 2 seconds. Juan Jimenez hoping he's got the fuel out of turn number 4. The gap is 2 seconds, and somehow he saves the fuel to win it. Juan takes another opener of this season at the playoffs.
What a job from the 48 there. Did not think it was going to be doable, and he pulls it off and spoils it, because Andrew has to say, man, this was my chance to lock myself in. I dominated tonight's race. I did not think that strategy was going to work, and the 48 gets it done.
Oh my goodness. The pace, the utter focus you have to put in. He is out of fuel. He just had just enough to get around this track. What a run by Juan Jimenez as everyone parks it next to the 48. And I mean, Zach, just the utter focus by a team to minimize your pace right from the start of the race and say, this is my strategy. I'm banking off of it. And the 48 got it done.
He got it done, Sam. That was so impressive, man. I mean, I don't think it can be said how impressive that is, because saving fuel is a work of art. I mean, you saw him clutching that car, going into the corners, and that last lap, he washed up into the wall. That's what you get a lot of times when you press that clutch in. That car, doesn't have that engine braking like you normally would, and it doesn't slow down right. It's Chris Roy trying to give him a good little push, only picking up the rear end of the car. But, man, what a job done by the 48.
Well, if you ever are curious of what we mean by these cars just pick the other one in front of, just pick them up. Well, that's exactly what we mean, as Christopher Wade was able to get enough momentum of sliding the 48 off his bumper. And is going to try to push him to victory lane, or at least to the front stretch. And as these two have some fun out there on track, we are going to step aside. When we come back, it's the post-race show. Let's talk to the fuel-saving master as well as the other drivers in our top 3 and a spotlight driver right after this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the post-race show of the Stars and Stripes throwback season. The first race of the round of 8 goes with a fuel strategy gutsy call. Juan Jimenez gets his second win of the season, second win of the playoffs, and certainly someone to be a threat if he comes back next season. Juan, it's Sam and Zach up at the booth. Congratulations on this win. And how did you do that? Because we're scratching our head thinking you're going to be a lap or two shy, and you come away with the win here tonight.
Yeah, it's always fun figuring out that strategy call. I saw that the tanks were going to make it maybe 45 and a half laps on a fuel run at the start of race, and the gears start turning, and I was like, guys, I think we can do a one stop. Obviously, Diego started from the pole, so it didn't really make a lot of sense for him to do that. But it was just, I'm a non-playoff driver. It's just just try whatever comes up, and obviously it worked out here.
That it really did, Juan, man. Congrats on that. We were freaking out up here saying, man, if he's just got enough, it's gonna work out for him. And you did. You ran out of 2 after that lap. But did you change anything up from that second run? Because we saw you made it 49 on the first run, so it means you had to make it 51 on the next. How did you end up actually making it 51 laps there on that second run?
Oh, well, I started fuel saving the whole race, the start of the race, but my priority at the first fuel run was like I'd rather be 4 seconds back from the lead with 49 laps than 10 seconds back having done all 50, because the draft is so powerful there, and you just don't want to lose 6 seconds of track position just to make sure you make it 50-50. So I wasn't really prioritizing fuel saving as much as staying in the draft and making sure that I was maximizing the draft time as much as possible. And then that second run, I really dialed it up and dialed up the fuel saving, because I knew I had the gap. I could give back some of the gap, so to speak.
Well, Juan, I mean, I gotta say, this is incredible to see the way that you performed these last couple of weeks when you got your win back at Charlotte, the win here tonight. Are you planning on coming back for next season? Because at this point, you're making people nervous if you are coming back.
Yeah, I've definitely, I'm excited about just being a spoiler in the playoff, because taking a win from Hess, the great thing about this league is how much parity there is, how many different people each week, day in and day out, are a threat to win a race. So of course that means that like anybody that I can take a win away from, that's like they could have a bad race individually, and that helps Dylan get across for the points. Like that just improves Dylan's shot basically. So I'm having a great time playing my role, and of course with the racing and all of the stuff, I would love to come back for next season. So that'll be exciting, hopefully.
Well, it has been a blast to watch you out there on track, Juan. Congratulations on this win. And before I let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout outs.
Yeah, of course. The main shout out as always is uh, shout out to all my teammates. I always say they are the main group of people that's always supporting me, and that's always being like, hey, just being like, hey, here's the tips for the race, here's how the strategy could play out. And it's always just great having a great group of guys that you can bounce ideas off of, that you can really work out things to improve upon. And we all have our different strengths, and it comes out for Dylan. I would say it comes out in the short tracks. For me, maybe the strategy races with the intermediates. Diego's fast absolutely everywhere. So just being able to bounce ideas off each other and just have a great community of people. And of course, I got to thank the broadcast and the league. It's just a high quality league. There's awesome racing. I can't remember the last time we had a race with more than 2 or 3 cautions. So it's always having a blast. There's always somebody to race, and it's just fantastic.
It was certainly amazing. Juan, congratulations on your second win of the season. Enjoy this one, and good luck next week.
Thank you, Sam.
Well, as we go from victory lane with Juan, let's go down to second place to a driver that was hoping that this race would turn into a victory and a lock-in win. We got the 5 of Andrew Hess with us. Andrew, it's Sam and Zach up in the booth. You come away second. You look like the dominant car of the night. But, man, how are you feeling after that one?
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed. We were just totally shocked that Juan was able to make it there. We were talking in practice and like, I don't think you can do it. And then it seemed like 49 seemed to be the number. And the fact that he did that on the second run there where we were spread out was even more amazing because he had less draft than he would have had in the first run.
Yeah, it's super impressive that he made that work. We did not think it was going to work out, Andrew, but still some great points here tonight, man. And you heading to Kentucky next week. How do you feel like you can take some at least the confidence maybe you took from here tonight to go into Kentucky to possibly propel yourself to that Final Four?
Oh, definitely going to take a little momentum. I mean, I love both these tracks here in the second round, so I've been looking forward to them both. Kentucky especially, I really like that track, and I think I'm probably one of the few guys that do. I like the old track and the new track, so I don't really care. I just look forward to getting there.
Well, it certainly does look like a track that kind of fits your style there, Andrew, going to Kentucky. And tonight was such a dominant run. We did see a couple of hiccups, though, of you trying to get by certain drivers throughout the night. What was seeming to be the difficult portion of you trying to get by drivers once you were in the trap of the draft?
I think the only one I probably had trouble was Scott, but that was just I was still taking care of my tires, and I knew he was going to kind of try to loosen me up a little bit, pinch me down, which is what I would have done too, and just had to be patient with it and let it play out. And it seemed to work out there at the end once we got by him and stuff. We could just kind of pull away. So that was really, I think, the only issues I really had trying to get through was just passing Scott. He was tough. You could hang on that outside, and it was kind of funny because he would run that third lane or something like the whole run until I get by him, and then he'd run to the bottom. I was like, okay.
Well, it was an incredible run, but I know you wanted the win, but second place still good points day overall. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shoutouts.
I appreciate everything you guys do. You guys put a hell of a broadcast on, and hope to get you guys some more views for that. The league, Nate, and everybody for having us and putting on a good show. Really appreciate it. Look forward to next week, and congrats to Juan. That was a good job.
Well, that is going to be the 5 machine of Andrew Hess. Comes away second, but watch out next week. Should be a good one to watch for this 5 machine. Congratulations on second, Andrew, and good luck next week.
Thanks, guys.
Well, from second place, let's go to third to Scott Rickard, who was trying to have a good run for the 32. We saw him up front at moments and fell down to third place at the end. Scott, it's Sam and Zach up in the booth. You come away with third place. You also came into the night with the most points, so you look pretty good locking yourself in going into next week. But, man, how are you feeling after your performance here tonight?
Track I've never been the best at. I'll take a third. I thought it was a second for a while because Juan saying I did not expect him to make it at the end. So I was the whole last run just expecting to be second at the end there. So it was good for him, but I'll take third.
Still a very good effort from you, Scott, to bring home third, man. That is still a great finish here in the first race of the round of 8 for you. So that's hopefully propelling some momentum for you. But, we saw different strategies all over the place here. I mean, of course, Jimenez stayed out for the one stop. But it looks like you elected to do a little bit of an undercut on Andrew Hess. And it worked out that second run, but that third one just not enough. Take us through the strategy calls here tonight.
Every time I've raced this league here, it's always been that whoever pits first seems like they usually win because nobody can make up the time that they lost from going long. So I just went with that mentality this race, and it worked for once.
It certainly did work, as we're now going to be heading into Kentucky next week to solidify who's making the Final Four. Now, what is your mentality going into that race, even with your big buffer of points you have going into it?
Honestly, not sure. Kentucky's I'm not the biggest fan of Kentucky, so whatever happens, I guess happens.
Seems like a solid way to go in there, Scott. Well, we most likely know who you're going to thank, but the floor is now yours for people that you want to thank before we get you out of here.
Oh, the classic, everybody in my team and my dog.
Well, that is going to be the 32 machinist, Scott Rickard. Scott, congratulations on third, and good luck next week on trying to make the Final Four.
Thank you.
Well, that is going to be our top 3. Now let's head to our spotlight driver fan favorite. It's going to be the 8 of Jason Grattan. Jason, it's Sam and Zach up in the booth. Congratulations on a good run here tonight. You come away 6th overall. But man, how are you feeling after your performance here this evening?
A little bummed that I didn't hold off for the top 5, but extremely happy with the run and finishing where I did. This round I wasn't too confident with the 2 tracks, especially Kentucky. Auto clubs hit or miss for me, so again, not super confident, but sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, at the end of the day, just super happy to finish where I did. I knew I was going to have to put up some big points to even have a shot at making next round, with everybody else having playoff points and me starting with none. So yeah, just super happy to have a good run tonight for sure.
Yeah, very, very good run for you, Jason. And, you bring up Kentucky, man. I mean, you talk about not feeling that comfortable there. I mean, do you feel like the possibility is still there for you to go into the Final Four? Because, I mean, a great points night here tonight, that's propelled you probably into a good position. How do you feel entering a track that you don't feel the most confident at?
I think the biggest thing is not running Kentucky with the ARCA car. I enjoy it with with the trucks and the Xfinity and Cup cars, but I honestly don't think I've ever ran ARCA there. But I don't know. I'm even at tracks that I'm not like Five Flags or somewhere, Nashville Fairgrounds. Once I get in the race and am running around other people, I'm able to make some ground on learning from what they're doing and trying to. I don't like to run by myself. I never practice, never run tests, so I always need a rabbit to chase. So I think once I get in the race, I'll be fine. But I guess just for as far back on points as I am, and as dominant as the other guys are, it's gonna take a lot to outpoint them. But
yeah, I mean, we're excited to see how you're going to run there, Jason, as it's going to be a crazy one with how the points are going to be looking. It seems like they are going to close in on one another, but you are going to be one of the drivers outside looking in. But before we let you go, I know you're one of the biggest fan favorites. If you look at the chat on people that are rooting for drivers, before we let you go, anything else you want to say?
Appreciate you guys for putting on the broadcast, Nate and Derek and everybody that runs the league, and for having me. And everybody that cheers me on in the chat. I don't want to leave anybody out, but I know my nephew Josh and my brother Todd are the 2 that are there week in and week out. So big shout out to those guys and to the rest of my family that's able to tune in when they can, and my teammates Zach and Chris.
Well, we can't wait to see how you're going to perform next week, Jason. Good luck at Kentucky on trying to make the Final Four, and congratulations on a good finish here at 6th. And hopefully you'll get even a better one next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Well, that is going to be your spotlight driver of Jason Grattan. Comes away 6th place here tonight, and that's going to be it for our interviews. Let's take a look at where the unofficial results are going to be for tonight's race. I mean, Zach, what a run. Juan Jimenez able to turn this race into a one-stop. Andrew Medlin as well was able to turn this race into a one-stop, but completely different sides of the universes on the 2 strategies for the both of them.
That really was. I mean, you see here with the leaderboard, 1st and 20th. So, yeah, it's a big different split of strategies there for sure, Sam, with the one-stop.
Well, your top 10 for these drivers is going to be the 48 of Juan Jimenez, who's going to take his 2nd win of the season, his 2nd round opener win as he won back at Charlotte 2 weeks ago. And will win here at Auto Club. Second's going to be Andrew Hess, who's going to have a great points day for himself. But it's not going to be too big of a points day because he's still got Scott Rickard behind him in third. Kyle Bowling in fourth. Fifth goes to Joshua Robinson. Jason Gratton, who came in 8th in points, needing some massive points. Well, 2 of the drivers he's trying to challenge finish ahead of him, so not going to be too big of a gap closer for the 8 machine, who finishes again in 6th. Ross Tatum in 7th. 8th goes to Aaron Hill. Thomas Ogle falls to 9th, and 10th going to be Will Bustler.
And as you look through the rest of that order, there are some disappointing finishes for a few of them. I think Dylan Grimm there just outside the top 10 and 11th. That's not where he wanted to be. The Pulsar Valle finishes back there in 13th. And then Christopher Way, you got to feel for him with those connection issues early in the race, was looking very, very strong, and he's going to end up right there in the top 15 and 15th. So tough break there for a few guys, but man, I'm still just mind blown how Jimenez pulled this all off and got that second, that second victory here of these playoffs as a non-playoff driver, really shaking things up and giving us a pretty big storyline, I think, heading into Kentucky next week, where it's going to be wide open for those 4 positions to fight for a championship at Bristol in just 2 mere weeks.
4 spots still able to be grabbed by so many drivers. Scott Rickard might be the only driver that could automatically put himself in just based off the points that he has, but that is the only driver that looks partially secure heading into next week at Kentucky as well. Kyle McCoy going to be in a must-win scenario. Dylan Grimm going to be in a very tricky situation. Same for Jason Gratton. But all these storylines going to be built up into next week on who makes the Final 4 to run for a championship in Season 6. Can't wait for it. And if you can't wait for more racing action, well, here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting, we've got more racing coverage for you throughout the week. Starting off on that Saturday night, we got the WSSR Next Gen Cup cars as they're getting themselves prepared. Playoff racing action for those drivers, as well playoff racing action for the other series that we cover throughout the week. Monday night, it's the ISRC Truck Series. Tuesdays, the Truck Series for the Full Send Racing Series. Wednesdays, the Wicked Racing League, as they've got their last race of the season, championship race for Wicked on Wednesday. And then next week, we find out who makes the Final 4 for that of the Stars and Stripes. Zach, can't wait for it. Plenty of great playoff racing ahead.
Plenty of it here, man. And if you ain't subscribed yet here at Freaky Fast, make sure you do that because you're not going to want to miss any of it. We got 5 great leagues, and just around the corner here, we're going to be crowning champions in each of those leagues here through the next 5 weeks. So it's the greatest time, I think, during Freaky Fast is when we all have all these leagues. It seems like right on schedule with their playoffs, and we get to crown some champions. So I can't wait to see how it plays out. And of course, next week here in Kentucky with Stars and Stripes, it's going to be another one to watch out for because you never know who could go out there and win. We just saw one stopper here win it tonight. What's going to pull it off there? You never know.
You truly don't. The mile and a half's have been the best action to watch for the Stars and Stripes Racing Series, and their 6th race of the season for the Stars and Stripes here tonight. No cautions being thrown. Crazy how consistent these drivers are at putting on a great show, and they do it once again. For tonight, thank you so much for joining us here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. For myself, Sam Dyer, for Zach Hall, Robert Morey Jr., who runs production here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, and everyone else at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, thank you so much for joining with us. We will see you on our next Freaky Fast broadcast. It's going to be Saturday night. We'll see you then for our next broadcast.